Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Culz Interviews. It's our second one in a row talking cryptids, this time with Matthew from the podcast Drunken Cryptids, who also does squatching. So we'll definitely be getting some encounters. I'm very, very excited. But Matthew, before we start, there is a series that we do, Colorado's Best Burgers. It's morphed into some other ones. You were recently talking about a hamburger place on your channel. Would you like to tell the audience what that was?
Yeah, so there's a local barbecue place here in North Little Rock, and Bart. It's called Old Bart's, and Bart's has been a big supporter of the show when he first heard about it. I'm a diehard Steelers fan, and I was looking for a home for They put me in charge of the fan club a couple years ago. So last year I was looking for a home, and he said, "Man, why don't you come down here and we'll take care of you guys?" So with the podcast and everything growing, he said, "I'm going to make you a burger." And he called it the Drunken Cryptid Burger. And I mean, its own seasoning, it's got an egg on it. I mean, it's almost like candied jalapenos and just amazing. So yeah, so Bart's like, "Hey man, just talk about me and I'll get you discounts." So
Hey, no, that's awesome. When we're out there at some point, we'll make sure to throw it on the list of our, nationwide search for the best burgers and give it a review.
I
But
definitely.
yeah, for anyone that hasn't heard of your show yet, which is interesting because we actually have some of the same crossover guests. But if anyone hasn't heard of Drunken Cryptids, do you want to kind of explain what it is that you do on that show?
Yeah. So Drunken Cryptids was actually born during 2020 is when the idea got started. I was, a lot of the restaurants and bars were still closed down. They were reopening back up. I was retired at the time, so I had nothing to do, and I was hanging out at this little smoky dive bar and sitting in the corner, and people kind of congregate at certain times. And one night we got talking about ghost stories and cryptids and everything on the sun for hours. And we did the next night and the next night. So the bartender finally looked at me and she goes, "Just Matthew, start a podcast." And I was like, I have no idea what a podcast is. I was thinking it's like those YouTube shows where they like unbox things that my kids were watching. You know what I'm talking about? I had no idea. So I sat on it for a little bit. A really good friend of mine 2 years ago was pushing me really hard to start one. He wanted to kind of produce it, and he wanted to, yeah, you be the voice, you be the face. And I was like, no one wants to hear it. No one wants to see it, I promise. And he's like, no, man, you'd be great. Push me. And I was like, all right. So I started digging into it, and I heard somebody, and I believe it was on the Crypts of the Corn podcast, and they talked about starting your own show. You want to get a name and make sure nobody has that name. And I was like, all right. So one night we're getting ready to play trivia. Restaurant bar trivia. I don't know if they have that out there or not, but down here it's a real big thing. And they'll come by, you got to turn in your team name. And I always try and tie in with something like Bigfoot or Dogman or something along those lines. And I looked at our table and we had like 5 pitchers of beer on the table. And there's only like 4 of us playing, on our team. And I went, man, we are some drunken cryptids. And I went, that's our name. And so that's where the name for the podcast got started. And we launched it, and it's an interview. I started it off as a kind of an interview. Let's talk about your encounters. Let's go into what happened to you. Everything from cryptids to UFOs, ghosts. I mean, you name it. I mean, I've got face stories as well, and kind of started evolving and growing. And so, unfortunately, the guy that was pushing me to do it suddenly passed away last year, and took all the passwords and everything that we had with him. And so I brought Tommy on board. About 2 months later, who's my current producer now. And because of Tommy, I mean, he's just launched us out there. He's able to dig and get everything back for us. And so he's my guy behind the scenes. He's the guy behind the camera, or does all my editing and everything. So, but yeah, so I got launched and started growing and quickly became, last year we won the award in Arkansas for Best Documentary Podcast. So my first year out, we won an award. It was pretty awesome. We've been nominated for a few of them this year. And by doing and starting the show, people were coming asking for me, my opinion on what was going on their property, what was happening at this location. So started doing our own investigations and had some really, just recently had some really crazy encounters about 2 hours north of here.
No, very cool. And I got to say, the backstory with your name much better than the backstory with how we named ourselves. So it's just our name, but spelled differently. So, um, you said you were a Steelers fan. Is that what I heard?
Yep.
So how do you feel about Aaron Rodgers? I mean, not to divert it, but we do have a sports podcast, so just to get that going as well.
All right. So I just did a live show for my fan club on Friday, and I just brought this conversation up. I think Aaron Rodgers has a really bad rap right now. He really does. Aaron Rodgers, a lot of people don't know this, but he went through a spiritual paranormal encounter some years ago, and it changed him. As you know, this is what we know. We all do this, so we talk to people all the time and go out. So I can't fault the guy for that. During 2020, he stood his ground on a belief. Whether it's right or wrong, he stood his ground, and he wouldn't be swayed. Again, right or wrong on that. He stuck to his guns, and so he earned this bad reputation. So he got tarnished. The original plan was when Roethlisberger was retiring, the rumor mill was spinning that Rodgers was wanting to come to Pittsburgh. So Rodgers hadn't fully committed at this time yet, and we ended up drafting a quarterback the first round, and that was the end of the Rodgers story. He goes up to the Jets. First season, he gets hurt. He struggles in New York, doesn't play very well. And, yeah, now he's about to retire. He knows he's going to retire. Why do you want to go out on a losing season? Why do you want to be that guy? You know what I mean? I mean, every quarterback, anybody, when you go out, you want to go out on top. And I think Rodgers wants to go out on top. And I think he's got a good relationship with Tomlin. I think he's got the Steelers so far, from what I'm seeing in camp and what I'm reading. Everybody's liking his work ethic. Everybody's enjoying it. The reason why he held out for so long was, and he came out and stated, I was not in a spot yet. I didn't want to sign, come to Pittsburgh and not be there. I wanted to, when I signed the papers, I wanted to be committed. And I can respect that. So I think he's going to come on. Whether he does good or not, I don't know. But I know he wants to go out on top and he wants to go as a champion. So, look, if we get one playoff win, hey, we're doing better than we have.
Yeah, no, I think Rodgers gets a bad rap because last year he really didn't have a terrible season by like NFL standards. Maybe by Rodgers standards, it wasn't up to par, but it really wasn't the bad. And it was also on the Jets. So,
Yeah, he actually had a good season last year. He had really good numbers. He put up great numbers for the Jets.
Yeah.
But you can have the best quarterback, you have the best receiver, but if you don't have the best around you either, or anybody trying to commit to that level, you're going to struggle. If you got guys that aren't running their routes right, you're going to, You're going to throw the ball and there's no one to throw it to. And being the quarterback, that's your job, though. You take the heat for it. That's your role. You're the leader of the team. So whether the defense performs or not, you're still in trouble.
I mean, it is a team sport. Rodgers himself said it at some point on the McAfee show that it's like the most, team like focused sport that you can have. But now that we've, severely diverted from tonight's topic, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit. Have you always been a fan or like into like the paranormal and cryptids, or was there an aha moment that really sent you down that rabbit hole?
Well, it's kind of funny you said aha moment. There's a story about aha. So no, I grew up in northern Utah. Played in the Uintas a lot. My stepdad had a cabin up there, so we would spend every other weekend, summers, all the time in the woods. So I grew up knowing of Bigfoot. My family was never shy about it. My step-grandpa actually had a scrapbook of newspaper articles from sightings of people up there. Patterson Gimlin film, they would show it on TV. My other grandpa would always point to the mountains and go, they're up there. So it was never like a secret or a taboo topic. It was always, Sasquatch is out there. And we cracked jokes about it. I mean, my stepbrother at one point woke up in the middle, one morning screaming, thinking that Sasquatch was holding up the tent, and he wasn't. But, Bigfoot's always been that thing in Utah. It's kind of one of the best kept secrets. There's a ton of sightings out there. In 92, the year before I joined the Army, we went up to Hellhole Lake, which is near our property. Hiked up there. It was in August. It started snowing. My mom was wearing shorts, and my dad and my buddy were wearing pants, and So we left and we got to the little parking area just right outside the national forest. And my mom starts jumping up and down, found a track. And so here it is. I'm 17 years old going, holy cow. You finally see it, and I actually have the photo, a hard copy photo from 1992. I took it with my camera. And looking at it now, I don't think it's a footprint because we were thinking it was the ball of it was his foot suspended. I actually think it's the hand. All spread out like this, where when it dropped down into almost like a spider crawl, and it's open field. And I'll cover more spider crawl theories here in a little bit. But yeah, I was hooked. Lived in a haunted house as well as a kid. Had weird, creepy stuff. So the paranormal was always there. I was a kid in the library reading books on the Loch Ness Monster and werewolves and vampires and ghosts and UFOs and obviously Bigfoot. I couldn't get enough of it and just poured and poured. Any book that came out, I was grabbing it and just soaking it up like a sponge. To where at one point as a kid, I was like, I want to be a demonologist like the, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I want to go and battle the. So yeah, I was all about doing this stuff and join the army. So, and yeah, had a good career in the military. Lived in a haunted house as well. Had some creepy stuff. Always happens, weird things. But the big one, and this is one that everybody wants to hear about, we call it the AHA story. So again, that's kind of funny you made the AHA reference there. And AHA is AHA, Ammunition Holding Area. So in August of 2002, prepping to go overseas, the unit that I was attached to, a mechanized infantry unit at the time down at Fort Hood, they had too many eggs in a basket, if that makes sense. The unit was jumping, trying to get everything done. All these boxes are going to be checked off before a unit can deploy. And they decided they were going to run an expert instrument badge site, as well as doing a mini gunnery for the mechanized guys. Well, I was EIB, expert instrument badge, so I was cadre for that. And then they were running this gunnery, so they had too many people spread out. And I got tasked with running a station and then pulling guard duty on over there by the gunnery site. And they said it was a hasty gunnery. So for any mechanized crew or any kind of crew, whether it be mortars, aircraft, tanks, Bradleys, even riflemen, all have to qualify with their weapon systems before you can be considered deployable. So you just can't grab you see in Hollywood, they grab Joe Snuffy and say, okay, you're doing this now. They got to have some sort of qualification before they can go down. So with people PCS in, people ETS in, crews change. So they had some brand new crews in the battalion. So they threw them together. Okay, go get qualified. So that way we could check off the box, make sure that everybody's good to go. So the unit puts together this gunnery, and we'd pull 24-hour on, 24-hour off, and then do our regular duties, and then come back in do the guard duty again. So they set the ammunition area up. Probably was about good 1,000, 1,500 meters away, which is a good distance. A lot of people don't realize that's actually a really good distance away on another site away from where they're doing the gunnery at. So they'd have a Humvee come in. We had an area concertina wired off. All the ammunition was inside of it. Come in, check off on clipboard. They drop off spent brass and links, and they pick up ammo and drive off. So my first round sitting out there, it was boring. There's nothing. We didn't have a radio to call in. This is how quick they did it. No weapon, no radio, all the stuff you're supposed to have on, guard duty. Got relieved the next day, no big deal. Did my job. It was the second rotation when I came out there, though, that morning. And I don't use their real names, but the guys were leaving with Sergeant M. And I pulled up in my truck, and he looked absolutely just tired. Just beat up, like he didn't sleep all night. And I looked at him when I got there and said, did you not sleep? What's up? And he goes, no, we slept in the bed of my truck because we had all these coyotes kept coming in. And I was like, all right. And the wildlife on a military installation, they're there, but they know we're there, if that makes sense. So the coyotes will come into your alfalfa. I've seen a coyote grab a guy's a boot right beside a sleeping bag and go running off with it. So they're going to come in, they're going to grab the scraps, they're going to grab food. Wherever soldiers are at, there's going to be food. And the coyotes are going to take advantage of that, come in. They're really not going to mess with you. They've never really messed with you. I mean, you're going to get bit by a snake before a coyote. I mean, just that was going to be out there. So, but with him, him saying that, I was like, it's been a lot of coyotes, but I'll let it go. So it's August, it's Fort Hood, Texas. It's 1,000 degrees outside. And we just gotten paid. And I did not want to eat MREs. And I had two soldiers with me, and I will call them Daniel Boone and David Crockett. And there's a reason for that here in a second as well. So, these kids from another platoon just happened to draw the short sticks and get stuck on guard duty with Sergeant Orton over the weekend. It was about lunchtime. They want to eat MREs, and we're about 20 minutes away from main post, driving wise. And I can't leave the site, so I asked one of the guys, "Hey, look, I'll give you $20. You want to run down to Burger King, get a couple of Whoppers, and come back?" He goes, "Yeah, Sergeant, I'll take off." Got in his vehicle, he took off, and came back, almost an hour later with a bag full of Whoppers. He used all my $20 on Whoppers, so he spent. So we got a bag full of Whoppers for $20. That was the plan. I never said the infantry guys are smart. By God, I love them. No, correct. But so now we have all these Whoppers, and we're eating. And Daniel Boone and David Crockett are trying to get creative, and they heard Sergeant Ham mention the coyotes, and they said, so they're like making bows and arrows. They're making spears. A bored infantryman in the field is a really dangerous animal. It really is. I mean, I'm more afraid of that than I am actual combat, because these kids get real creative. So again, they're making spears and bow and arrows, and they're talking about the coyotes. And one goes, "You know what, Sergeant? I bet we can make some traps." And I was like, "All right, go ahead. You're more than welcome to it. Go ahead." So they grabbed a couple of Whoppers, and they walked out past the ammunition area, and they're setting their little traps up. They set about 3 traps up with these Whoppers that we had left over. And I'm just in the camel net shade watching them and reading a book, and all right, good luck. And of course they come back, and the evening is quiet. And as the sun sets, now it's August, so the sun's going down 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So it's going to be late. And I've got a little pen light that I'm using to read with, my little flashlight. Because again, you're just out there, so we're not full tactical gear. Okay, so So I have like the flashlight and some other stuff, sleeping bag to lean up against it. So it's real casual guard. And I had a can of Pringles, and I had a glow stick, chem light. Everybody calls them, glow sticks. Crack it, shake it, and it glows green or pink or purple. Yeah. So the Army's real famous for using green ones. So I had a green one cracked. I had it sitting beside me. And then they started off with, one of them mentioned, "Did you hear that?" And which was enough for me to pause my book and look up at them. They were probably about maybe 7 feet from me. And I made the comment. I was like, "Hear what?" And they were like, "Well, it sounds like somebody dropped a canteen half filled with water." So the old school canteens, the plastic ones, if they're half filled with water, if you dropped it, it would make a really distinct thunk sound. And it's really unique, really kind of it's a weird thunk. So I sat there listening, and the hardball, the road, was about 400 meters to my right, which would be to the west of to the east of me. So I'm sitting there, and it sounded like we heard a car go down the hardball. I could hit something, and the echo, reverberated back. And I went, "That's what y'all heard." "Oh, sorry, that's not what we heard." "That's not at all what we heard." And I was like, "Oh, that's what you heard." And then at that point, I realized that the direction they said they heard the sound from, there was no other sounds. There was no insects. There was nothing going. It was quiet. You could hear everything to the left. So let me paint that geography real quick. So we're off of a tank trail, off of a dirt road. In the middle, we're called tank trails. Off of another tank trail, we're parked right beside it. To my 6 is really thick woods. To my front is kind of a field open. And then I've got about 20 meters to my 1 o'clock, 1:30 position is where the ammunition set up at, and the concertina wire. And it's in about a 10 meter by 10 meter squared off area. stacked up in boxes. Past that, more open field, and that's where they had came through and cleared to put power lines up. Okay, so they had the clearing through the trees. So to the left, further down the road, to the east, that's where everything's all quiet. And I'm just so I'm watching, not thinking anything cryptid, paranormal, spooky, nothing like that at all. Going, somebody out here. Through this whole evening, I'm thinking somebody's out here. So I'm watching, and the noises start picking back up, because you know how the woods get. Once they settle down, noises come back up. But now the noises to my right quit. So I'm no longer focused on the left. I'm just kind of watching to the right. And it went back and forth, to be honest with you, for about 45 minutes. And me just sitting there, snacking on Pringles, kind of reading and just kind of paying attention to knowing that somebody's out there. Thinking maybe another unit's messing with us, something like that. And then the Humvee comes down the road. Humvee shows up, put my book down, cam light, flashlight. Well, I have a little flashlight with me. Walk over, I'm talking to the driver, was an NCO buddy of mine that I knew. And my guys are jumping off, and they're helping load up ammo and unload ammo out of the Humvee. And I look over where we're just sitting at, and my cam light's gone. So my green glow stick is gone. And I was like, huh. At that time, I turned and look, and either Daniel Boone or David Crockett came up to me and goes, hey, Sergeant, can I get the cam light real quick, or your flashlight, so I can read the numbers? And I said, well, I thought one of y'all had it. And he goes, no, we don't have it. All right. And I looked over at my buddy and goes, here, man, I have a box. I was sweet. Because getting a box of chem lights is like gold at that time in the military. It was great. So me and him are, BSing back and forth. They get everything done. And I'm there's chem lights in the back of my head. Like, where did the chem light go? So I'm kind of scanning out, expecting to see my chem light, bobbing up and down somewhere. And nothing. Humvee drives off. I go back over to the camo net. I got Daniel Boone and David Crockett with me. And they're jumpy at this point in time. And I don't know why. I can't remember what made them jumpy. This is 2002. I can't remember if they were picking up that the sounds were going off. I knew I was. But at this point in time, everything was normal. All crickets, all insects were being how they should be. And I made the point and said, okay, guys, you guys are a little nervous. Tell you what, we got a box of chem lights. So we'll just go and hit every picket on the AHA, and we'll mark it with a chem light. So that way we'll have some light over there. And if anybody asks for doing it because, well, we're doing security, we want to make sure it's secure, we're like, all right, sorry. So we get the first one, we got a little pen light, crack it, mark it, walk down the wire, get the second one, crack it, mark it. And all this happens simultaneously. Because I turn the corner to go north, the thunk sound happens to the east, to my left, where they first heard it at. And it was an actual thunk. And it was a pretty loud thunk. At the same time as that noise happens, I step into a cold spot. Again, this is August in Fort Hood. There should be no cold spots. The cold spot was so cold, I saw my breath into my flashlight. So they're right behind me. I have my head turned to the left where the sound came from. I'm trying to back into that cold spot again, trying to do everything at once, and they're freaking out. Did you hear it? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, now I know there is somebody out here. So I continue to mark, and we get back over, and then to the camo net, and the noise starts up again. One side goes up, one side goes down, vice versa. So whatever is moving on the outside perimeter that we can't see. And was getting to the point where I said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to step outside the camo net. There's got to be another unit out here. Somebody, they have to be out here. They might be trying to figure out who we are. Maybe First Cab is out here training because we're not. So somebody else has got to be out here training. It's got to be another unit. It has to be another unit. They may think we're the Op 4 or we're the Blue 4, and they're trying to figure out how to come in. So we're going to move away from the camo net that they expect us to be at, and we're going to set ourselves up between this thick brush and the ammunition. And remember, we're not being quiet. I mean, I'm blatantly smoking at night with my lighter going and everything, kind of waving my cigarette around and chem lights. I mean, we're not being tactical at all. So if there was anybody out there, they know that we're there. So I move us over, in between, and I'm facing to the west, correct, to the east, and I've got both these guys on my back shoulders facing opposite directions. And we were set there for about 10 minutes when footsteps happened. And these are blatant bipedal footsteps, and they are just walking straight towards me. Making a beeline right at me. And I had the tree line. There was no moon up yet, so it just started like, it was dark. So I'm trying to squat down to try and silhouette this, person against the tree line so I can see him. If there was no tree line, then I would have been able to see him walk up. They would have been silhouetted against the skyline. So I'm trying to get lower, and again, one of the kids behind me kept saying, "Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh crap! Oh crap!" And I kept, elbowing him to shut him up. And this thing got I should have been able to see it about 4 feet in front of me, and I had the pen light. As soon as I clicked it on, there was nothing there. To my immediate right in the thick brush, something bolts and runs. So I jump up and I run along the brush, and there's a dirt berm right beside it. And as I'm running around to clear it, to intercept whoever was just there, I get on top of this berm, and this giant rock lands right behind me. And it was a distinct thump, thump hit. And I spin around, and again, it was either Daniel Boone or David Crockett, and they're standing there at the bottom of the dirt berm. And I raced down to the bob, and I grabbed them by the collar, and I'm in that, sergeant mode, F you this and F you that. And I'm yelling at him, if this is you effing with me, I'm going to F and bury you out here. And I'm going off. And the kid is crying. He's got tears just streaming out of his eyes. He's scared to death. He's pale. As I'm yelling at him, and I realize it's not them, because I was just crying behind me in the thick woods. This log breaks. You hear this sound. It's a distinct crumble. It's not a crack. It's a crumble sound. So now whatever it is behind me. So I spin around. I jump over run over the berm, and I got my flashlight on, and you get about 10 feet into the woods, and it just felt really, really oppressive. This is the part I always struggle with, because it's when I go into the woods, it was dark. I've been all over the world at this point in time. I've been in the military since 93. It's now 02. This was dark. Even with my little flashlight, it just felt dark. And even memories of it almost feels like that I'm not looking through my eyes. I'm watching me third person, like in a video game. And every part of my being was just screaming, get out, get out, get out. It was not, it was just, so I slowly back out of the woods, looking over my shoulder, make sure I don't trip, and I'm keeping in front of me so I don't have a weapon or anything. But everything at that point in time was also just quiet. There was no noise. None. You'd hear the occasional, but nothing at all. So I got out. I hit the tank trail. I'm standing there in the tank trail. And looked over to my right, and I saw our vehicles. And I was like, oh, that's my truck. So I kind of jog over to my truck. And the first thing I did is I start my truck up, and I turned the headlights on, turned them on bright, and I lit that area up. And it was like relief. Just having those headlights on at that moment, I was just like, yeah, got you now. Because at this point in time, I know it's not human. I know that this whatever's going on isn't normal. So I stood there for a minute with the truck running the headlights on, and then it kicked in. I was like, no, I can't do this. We got to be technically proficient. We got, all the rules kick in, what you got to do, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. So I turned the engine off, and I turned the headlights off. Now, in 2001, the summer blockbuster was this really cheesy movie, and I might get some hate mail for this one. That came out that involved race cars and street racing. And we all know the Fast and the Furious. And everybody was doing neons on their vehicles at this time. Everybody was doing neons. For years, people were still putting neons on their vehicles. I was a retard, and I had neons on my truck. But I had them. It was cool, you know? So I had these blue neons where the windshield wiper fluid would come out and spray up on your windshield. So it's cool. I replaced them. I had these blue neons, and I was like, all right. So I hit the switch. The blue neons came out. And again, so totally dark at night. These neons actually put off a pretty decent amount of light. And I was like, okay. And I walked over to the camo net. Daniel Boone and David Crockett at this point are pretty much hugging each other. I mean, they're scared. They're saying, can we leave? Sorry, can we leave? Can we leave? Can we leave? Can we leave? I'm like, no, we can't. We got to go to our post. This isn't right. I know, but we can't leave. And I turned my head over and looked at my truck, and something walked in front of the truck because it, shadowed the one neon. So I dropped my cigarette and I bolt over there, and nothing. Nothing was under the vehicles. Nothing was running up and down the tank trail. I mean, I would have heard it, and nothing. And at that point, I just turned my neons off and walked back over, and I picked up my cigarette and I sat down outside the camo net, and they're like, "What do we do?" And I was like, "Nothing." And in all honesty, that's really the last thing I really remember for that night until the next morning.
That is so. What do you think? Oh,
there's
okay.
more. What I do remember next, sun comes up. All right, sun's coming up. Everything. I remember the moon came up at one point in time during the night because everything illuminated, and it seemed like everything quieted down when that happened. Sun comes up. Everybody gets braver when the sun comes up. So we're trying to figure out what happened. We're trying to figure out what it was that we dealt with last night. And I went, you know what? Go check your traps. Sergeant Am had coyotes. I bet you that's what it was. Again, everybody's brave and smart when the sun comes up. So I'm pretty feeling cocky and sure of myself. I said, go check your traps. Go ahead, guys. And they did. They get to the first one. They're jumping up and down. They're waving at me. I was like, yep, told you. Yep, coyotes came in. That's what it was. Whopper was there untouched. As was the second one. As was the third one. You're going to put food out that far away from your position. Something's going to come in and get it, especially if the animals know you're there. Nothing came into our AO that night. It shook me so bad when I got home. My ex looked at me and she thought I'd been on a deployment. She said I was pale. I had bags under my eyes. My eyes were sunken in. I tried to sleep. I couldn't sleep. And we were going to a buddy of mine's barbecue that night. We're going to his house, hanging out, him and his wife. So when I got there, he said the same thing. He was like, "Do you look like crap? What happened?" I was like, "Brother, you're not going to believe me if I told you." And he said, "Tell me." 30 minutes later, we're in my truck and we're driving back out to the site. I mean, it bothered me that bad. I was going back up there to check on those guys, make sure they were okay. And I come down to the guard, and the guy leading me is like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, man, I thought I had my grandpa's knife with me, and I can't find it. Let me look, see if I left it here." You know what I mean? And that whole night when I got there, that night, though, felt totally different. It felt like a normal night in the woods should feel, as opposed to what we had the night before. So, yep.
Yeah, no, it's wild. And I don't know if Sam was thinking what I was thinking, but at parts of that story, it sounded like an experience we had. So we'll have to tell you that at some point. But what do you think you encountered that night? Like, what in the back of your mind?
So for the longest time, I was on paranormal. I was on a paranormal encounter. And it was some years later, after I got out of the service, I was watching, because again, still a nerd. So I watched all the documentaries, the paranormal and the cryptid ones and Bigfoot and everything. And there was one night on, I was living in Dallas at the time, and laying in bed, watching it. And they started talking about these rocks being thrown at them. When I was like, well, that's kind of, whoa, what? You know what I mean? For some reason, I'd always skip every rock throwing story and everything until that one night. And I was like, no, something threw rocks at me. Okay. So what was it? And I couldn't see what walked up on me. And the way it was here and then throwing and then, going back and forth just as quick. either A, as the Flash, or B, there's multiple ones. And I have no idea. It checks the box of Sasquatch. It checks the box off of, Dog Man. It checks the box of Fey Folk. It checks the box of, Alien, minus the lights in the sky. But yeah, I have no idea. And it's been driving me nuts ever since.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Another box I might be able to check is like a little bit of a skinwalker type of deal.
Well, okay, so you're in skinwalker territory. I'm not. Texas is not, and that's been my argument for skinwalkers. Now, other Native American, tribes have similar, cryptids or stories as well that can tie into. But for the skinwalker, a lot of people want to put skinwalker into a big box, and it's not. I'm not going to have a skinwalker in Arkansas. I'll have another cryptid that's similar to it, but the skinwalker is based off of the Western tribes, the Navajo, the Utes and everything. There was no Navajo tribes in Arkansas or in Texas, or further east. Now, are there other cryptids of these Native Americans? Yeah, I mean, I have a guy that probably had an Elusa encounter. Now, we won't have that out west, but we'd have it down here. So I do think a lot of these, with the Native Americans, with their traditions and their cryptids, when they were moving west, I do think they came with them. I don't think the ones from the west came to the east. So, because I think the skinwalkers got a lot of publicity now for a lot of people right on the bat that love to jump on that skinwalker.
I mean, they got a whole TV show named after him right now.
Exactly. I mean, for it's like, no, if you look at the history of the skinwalker, then, no. So then, so we have to look at what's going on. So it's in Texas. So what do we have in Texas? So you look at the cultures that were in Texas at the time. So we had the Spanish, we had the Mexicans, and the Native Americans, and then the European settlers. And then we got to add into the African slaves. So you got 5 different cultures moving, in one area. So what's going to be brought with them? The cool thing about being America, to be honest with you, is that we are a melting pot of so many cultures. What cryptids came with us?
Well, yeah, no, there's so many awesome things when you go to different just locales in the United States that it's so unique. You kind of got your blanket ones like Bigfoot. I would say you kind of got something similar throughout. But yeah, like you go down to like the New Orleans area and you kind of got more of that voodoo tradition that we don't have up here in Colorado, obviously. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Speaking of, I guess, Skinwalker Ranch, being that Utah, what are your thoughts on that?
They're doing great at making a lot of money off of it.
Okay. Not too dissimilar, doesn't sound than me. My biggest thing when I read the books and stuff, I was like, why is it called Skinwalker Ranch? Like,
because it sounds cool. So, me and my fiance, we just went down to Hot Springs, Arkansas a couple weeks ago, and I promised her one night, no cryptid, no paranormal, no podcasting, no nothing. One night, I'll reach out, go down, go to Hot Springs, spend the night. We'll go check out the town. We'll go eat somewhere nice. We'll go have a good time. The first place we walk into is wall to wall selling Bigfoot stuff. And I went, I'm so sorry. And she goes, it's okay. You can put Bigfoot on toilet paper right now and you would sell it. You could charge it. You could sell it for $7 a roll and they're going to buy it. I mean, it's out there. I mean, shit, I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt right now. I mean, so yeah, Hobby Lobby now has a section of Bigfoot and it's even labeled on the side, Bigfoot. You can go buy Bigfoot. I mean, I've got some, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I get it. It sells. Right now, Bigfoot is marketed. If you look at the 80s, totally different. UFOs were. And if you want the proof of the late 80s, early 90s, and the TV show X-Files, the big prominent thing he had hanging up in his office was, I want to believe. And that's the classic UFO poster. So it seems like it rotates around when it comes to, all this cryptid stuff. And Skinwalker has been huge. And it's been making a big comeback. I think Skinwalker is almost bigger than Dogman. To be honest with you, you say Skinwalker and everybody knows, oh, the TV show. Then my theory on the TV shows is, one, they're entertaining. If you look at it for entertainment, great. If you're looking at it for actual, like Oak Island, they're never going to find it.
Right. And if they found it, we would know before the TV show premiered.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, in my favorite, they do this all the time too. Is they're like going, all right, so here we are, we're out in the woods, and people are having a whole bunch of encounters and everything. And what was that? All right, look, tree knocks. All right, Sasquatch isn't out there with an axe or a baseball bat beating on trees, and strong, yeah. And if he was to punch a tree, it's not going to make that kind of sound. I think the tree knocks is more of a vocalization noise that they're doing, like a clicking with their tongue or something, be able to project like that. So, they're out there beating on, trees with sticks and stuff. And then they'll be like going, oh, it's right over there. Don't tune in next week as we find out what that was right over there. And then come back as a raccoon. So it's the hook to keep you to come back for more and more. Make sure you check out our sponsor, and for my research and stuff, I don't want any of that. I mean, I've gone to, like, we went to an alleged haunted battlefield, and it had a great episode. Nothing paranormal happened. It was fun to talk about the history of the battlefield, but nothing happened. So it's not always going to happen. And people always have this generalization to where, you go in the woods and you're going to get Bigfoot. You're not. There's not a giant population. Or on the counter argument too is people go, I've been in the woods my whole entire life. I've never seen it. Like, great. How many armadillos have you seen? I mean, let's be honest. Think about it. How many armadillos? All right, I'll do one better for you. You're in the Colorado Rockies, okay? You got grizzly bear, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many grizzly do you see? It's a population number. Sasquatch population numbers are smaller than these other animals are. So the chances are of having the encounter are slim. And that's why when you do get a hot spot, you do want to try and jump on it and see what's going on. That's been our recent area. And the activity is still going on. I just talked with the homeowners a couple of days ago, and they're like, I think they miss you because, her husband walked outside with the headlamp on and walked out to his shed, and all of a sudden, they were getting knocks and everything. I was like, well, maybe they do miss us. I don't know. So, but sorry, I go on a tangent about this.
No, I mean, you're good. Going back to your question, though, I've definitely seen much more armadillos than grizzly bears in the wild. At least on the highway down to Texas through Oklahoma, like right at the border there's tons of them.
And they're all dead.
They're all dead, yeah.
Yeah. So, but how many have you seen in the woods, though?
None.
I'll use skunks, for example. We all know skunks. We see them down the side of the road, right? I've seen one skunk one time. And I'm talking in the field, in the Army, because in the infantry, you don't sit in an office in the infantry. Our job isn't hanging out in an office and doing paperwork all day. Our job is to be out training and cleaning weapons and training. And you're in the woods. 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 I never saw my first armadillo, honestly, alive until Arkansas, to be honest with you, or trying to cross the road. In the woods, like, it's an armadillo. How cool is that? One skunk. One skunk in all my years. I mean, so birds, same thing. Tons of birds out there, but how times do you see this kind of bird? So, like moose, ton of moose. That up in that area, ton of moose. They're for as big as they are. How elusive are they?
Pretty elusive.
Yep. Pretty, though. We do have one that's been hanging out kind of around our area.
How cool is that?
Everyone's like documenting it. They're like, and here it is again. So you get like the whole life of this moose just walking around.
That's the point I'm trying to make, though, and that's for a lot of people when it comes to a lot of the cryptids, especially with Sasquatch, is they don't look at a population number. So I mean, I think there's more of them than we think there are, but we're not looking. I guarantee you, all of us, and everybody who's watching as well. We've all been in the woods, and I guarantee we've walked past moose. We've walked past stuff that we didn't. I mean, they're good at hiding for a reason. We hunt them for a reason. We don't go get one. We have to go hunt one. Even deer. Ton of deer. But every time you go in the woods, you're not seeing a ton of deer. You'll see their tracks, i.e. Bigfoot as well. There's too much evidence for Sasquatch to exist. There's more evidence for it to exist than there is for it to not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and if you go up to the Pacific Northwest area, I know when we went to Seattle, there's just so much forest. And it's like there's
Dense
just so
forest,
much
too.
yeah, there's just so much place for them to hide. Like you wouldn't see them because it's so dense. Like
Do you know Arkansas is one of the most forested states in the union? A lot of people don't realize that.
see, I
Yeah.
haven't been to Arkansas. I do have some stories, family stories in Arkansas, but
I will tell you, if you do come and visit, you do not want to come in August.
I mean, humidity, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, it's brutal. I'm not gonna lie. So I linked up. So the investigation that we've been working in, the first day we go out there, I found knuckle tracks. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was, I hate saying it, like beginner's luck. You know, I was like, holy, right there, and just it was literally knuckle tracks, and it looked like his hand had come down, was resting on a log, and stood up. I mean, you could see everything. Blown away by that. We got growled at immediately after finding this thing. We got growled at. Of course, it ended up I had to go through and play some different animal sounds. It was a bobcat. But so being honest, there, oh, you had this thing growled at us. It was a bobcat. But no, it was a bobcat. And what kind of solidified it for us was that night when we went back down there to do a night hunt investigation for it. I looked at my buddy Jacob and the homeowner, and I said, "Did y'all step in cat poop?" I mean, literally, I was smelling cat poop. And so I was like, bobcat. That's all right. Bobcat. Darn it. But being honest. But then that night, when we moved to the other side of the property, and what's really unique about it, too, is that, so Lisa and Ray are a sweet couple. They're from California. They moved out here 3 years ago. They bought 3 acres. They north of Heber Springs, which is a recreational lake here. And they just quiet, happy life. He runs marathons. He's an old Marine, former law enforcement, former Marine guy. Really down to earth, not want to look at you and kind of BS you around. He just like, yeah, no, yes, that kind of guy. He was afraid to go at night. He was really afraid to go out there. Jacob was with me. And when he hears this, I'm like, yeah, because he missed it too. He was like, he asked me too. He goes, why don't they move? I'm like, it's their property, man. Me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like a kid in a candy store. Like, come on, come on. And I was waiting for dark. So, and Jacob was like, going, I'm not gonna lie, man. If something happens, I said, I'm here. You'll be fine. But if you don't want to go, okay, I'm not gonna make fun of somebody for being scared to go out there. That's not what we do. So, but as me and Jacob were getting ready to go, Ray came around the corner, came out of the house, and he had a shotgun with him. And I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm going. And I was like, okay. So as we continued through it, Ray got braver and braver to where he actually was in front at one point, and we were beside we were near the house by their trail cam, and they have a deer feeder set up because they want to feed the deer and get pictures of the deer and see the deer. They're not hunting them; they just enjoy the deer. So he was in front. Jacob was in the middle. I was pulling up the rear, and all of a sudden, and this is where it's weird. We got these two grunts. I mean, it was like a kind of noise. I heard it to the right from the woods. They heard one grunt to the left, and then another grunt to the right from the woods. So they both heard left and right. I heard right. So, not to throw a pun in there, but who's right? You know what I mean? So, but we heard something, and I'll be honest with you. I've played a ton of black bear grunting noises, wild hog noises, everything noises. Could not find any noise similar to what we heard. But it was that prominence where Ray shotgunned on up, and I've got lights up, and I'm looking, going, okay, you're over there. And at night, trying to maneuver through the brush, there was no way to get in there. So now we're trying to move around it to get to the spot. And this really weird, skunky smell. And it was okay, you're in Colorado, so skunk weed, really, 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 really bad weed that also smells like skunk.
Yep.
Right? Now add that with a little bit of other weird smell with it, and that's kind of what it was. I never smelled it, but the skunk was kind of prominent. And I was going, all right. maybe a skunk. You know what I mean? I got to play the realistic card, but the grunting noise, no. So, Chumming with the Spirits. It's a podcast out of Kansas City. Great guys, 3 guys do a great job. Get a chance, check them out. JD had been talking about they do a lot of paranormal, and they wanted to go on a cryptid hunt. And so I got a hold of them. I said, I got a hot spot right now if you want to go. We can go in 2 weeks. I told them what happened. There one guy came to Arkansas, and I was interviewing him, doing an in-person interview the next day after we did the investigation. So he was seeing the track that we caught. I should have brought it, but you really can't see it on camera that well. I'll send you pictures though.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem doing that. So they're like, yeah, we'll come down in 2 weeks. So they did. They came down in 2 weeks, and we went back there again. And right off the bat, down there by where we got the growl at, okay, and the hand track at, there was a vertebrae on a tree branch. A big old vertebrae from a deer just stuck on a tree branch about, chest high. And we were like, that's odd. You have to have opposable thumbs to do that. I mean, you have to be able to, you know what I mean? There's no way.
Squirrel ain't going to do that or something like that. Yeah.
No tornado, no nothing. As we go through, it was kind of a quiet during the day. It really was. And I thought it'd be funny, and I would play the Sierra sounds. God, I'm losing my voice. Play the Sierra sounds at dusk. Because why not, right? So I had everybody spread out in 3 different areas. Fired up the Sierra sounds. Nothing. Everything was quiet. Dogs, everything is quiet. Quiet. And I'm only going to share a little bit about what happened that night because we're still reviewing all the evidence. But for that evening, the biggest eye shine I've ever seen in my life. Huge. Chris, my lead investigator, he saw it first, and he calls out eye shine. And we had red lamps on. So I turned my flashlight white light on, and I'm looking, and I stepped over near him, and it was just, it was there. I mean, we're talking huge. And I mean, it's where bigger than my head, spaced out, and just big. And they're forward facing. I was like, whoa. And I'm like, all right, I see you. I'm kind of a smart ass in the woods. So I made a comment, I see you. And it was only about, again, just a little bit, about stomach high. So I'm going, well, what are you? And it just glides. It just glided, from left to right. And we're kind of watching it. And it stopped. And so I took a step forward, and it blinked. Now, I'm not going to lie. When it blinked, I got a little, I was like, oh, okay, that's real. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I did a step back. I did do a step back. I was like, oh, okay. And it moved again, so we're tracking it, and he's probably about 7 feet from me. And his perception of it was looking at him, and my perception it was looking at me. So when we tell the story, so it drops down lower, and it's out behind some brush. Excuse me. And I'm trying to step up to the brush. I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out what you are. These eyes went, gone. Drop down, like, gone. Just gone. No running off. I was 5 feet from it. Nothing. Gone. And then I think I found a spot where it urinated at too. I got pictures of that. Throw up in the black light's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I haven't had I should say I've not had an experience that I know of with anything like that. The closest one is one here in Castlewood Canyon Dam, and we were out there just filming an episode on the dam itself. And so definitely not in paranormal, cryptid, any type of mode. But I was out with Alan and Adam, who were both Navajo, big out in the outdoors, we were fine and stuff like that. And coming back, instead of taking the trail all the way back because it was getting kind of close to dark, we just hopped up onto the road and we were walking along and we heard something. And it's hard to describe what it sounded like, but it was like a long noise and we stopped. And then nothing happened. So we kept going. Then we heard it again. And so we're listening and we tried to record it, but we couldn't time it. And it just kept going on. And we got back to Alan's truck and we just played through animal noises and we couldn't figure it out. And for Alan and Adam not to figure it out, I was like, okay, something weird was going on. But that's like the most closest to like weird kind of cryptid thingy that I've ever experienced personally.
So, I mean, noises, period, are scary. I got a buddy of mine. Well, a guy I met, he did an episode with me. He started with the Canadian military, moved to Arkansas for some reason. And I love Arkansas. Don't get that personally. But so the family and everything that they have down here, there's the reason why he moved down here, got family. And he sent me some from the ring cam, and it sounds like an elk. There's no elk. I mean, it sounds like a weird, I'm trying to copy an elk noise. The part in Arkansas we have elk is in the far northwest, nowhere near where this was recorded at. And it's like an elk. I had Justin from Cribs the Corn listening to it. He's like, it's really elkish. It sounds elkish. I don't know what else to say. I was like, I'm with you, brother. I don't know. So, but yeah.
Right. When you hear it and don't see it, I think that's when it's the most spooky, because you're like, it's making noise and it probably can see me, because animals are much better at seeing stuff at night than we are. But Sam, before I just completely take over, do you have some questions you want to ask, or just cryptid stuff you want to talk about?
I mean, mine, I don't know how much we want to go into ours, because I figured we were going to tell more of our stories on his side.
Well, I was just like more questions you want to ask him. You don't have to go into our stories. Yeah.
I thought that's what you were asking. That's why I was confused.
This is always fun to do.
Right.
Hey, we're recording yours, then we're recording mine. All right.
Yeah, let's go.
Yep. So that's what me and Rye did with Cordega of Codex. Yeah. God, I always screw up the name of it. Great guy. So he recorded for me first, and then I recorded for him. And so the next day he texts me and he goes, dude, your whole episode is shot. I was like, what? He goes, dude, I can't use none of it. I was like, are you serious? He goes, yeah. So there's been a few times I've talked about this, and it's gone, something screwed up with it. And then if you want to hear another funny one, so I told y'all I found a witness, right, for the LBL.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on my show, it's Roger's story. His name is Roger. And I got some friends that run Sponsors of Mullets and Never More Hollows. And we all hit kind of a milestone with our subscribers. Like, hey, man, we'll do our own little show, all of us together, talk about random
500
stuff.
subscriber milestone. I saw that one.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. So I'm like, yeah, we'll do it. So they were talking, and they were like, so if you were to tell anybody, talking about each of the shows, so which episode of Drunken Cryptids would you listen to? And John goes, I tell him to go listen to Roger. The Roger episode. That was great. And as soon as I started talking about Roger, my audio quit, everything quit. And then every time I tried to come back into the room, I could see everybody, but I couldn't hear them, and they couldn't hear me at all. So that's the Roger story. I'll stop there so we don't ruin the audio for this one.
That's pretty wild.
That is wild.
Have you had a UFO or extraterrestrial experience?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of. I saw something as a kid, but I mean, it was more likely looking back a hot air balloon with my dad and my mom and my little sister truck driving through Mexico. But I mean, as a kid, anything in the sky is gonna be like a UFO, But no, nothing at all. I mean, I've seen some, soldiers at night, will play their night vision and everything. Will lay there at night and look at the stars and everything, and you'll see stuff, zipping through. You'll see more with that than you will with the naked eye. But no, I've never seen Yeah, but I know. Not saying they're not out there. I believe they're out there. Something's up there. There's too many eyewitnesses for there not to be. I just never had one yet.
All right.
And the government said they're real, so they have to be.
Right. Well, on that note, what are your thoughts on Roswell?
Ooh.
Roswell. All right. I think an unidentified craft crashed in Roswell. I believe that it is not of this earth. I believe there are things that were not of this earth that were discovered there and found there. And the reason why is because they came out and said it at first.
Mm-hmm.
There was no hush up order. There was no this. There was no that. Nothing. Nothing at all. And it was as soon as they acted on up, nope, weather balloon, they tried to show this, they tried to show that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of evidence we could go into of, because you can, I mean, they've made it to where you can argue for and for against it. And that's, I mean, it's smart. I mean, the conspiracy guys have done all the hard work for us. And they made it easy to where we can't argue it. And the best way of keeping a secret is to keep it out there, not as a secret. Like Area 51. Everybody and their grandma knew Area 51 was real. Everybody. I mean, it was in movies, it was in books, it was on TV shows, everywhere. And then they just recently go, okay, yeah, there really is an Area 51. And we're like, no, we know. Yeah, so.
But what took its place? Because anytime they like say something, that's, it's kind of how I feel about some things. The Roswell one for me has always been intriguing. I mean, Phoenix Lights was intriguing because Alan lived on the reservation and saw those. And so he's given us that experience. But just going to Roswell as much as we do and being able to talk to like Jesse Marcel III and Don Schmidt and some of these like names that are associated with it and can tell you the stories, you're like, yeah, something weird happened. Like it's not just a weather balloon. And
I did go to Roswell.
Did you?
Yeah. So in 2021, my Army, but I was bored and I wanted to take a road trip. And I was like, so I called my buddy up. He lives in San Antonio. I said, hey, you want to go drink a beer on the corner of Winslow, Arizona? And he goes, yeah. So a week later, I picked him up in Dallas, and we drove to Roswell, stayed the night in Roswell, checked out the Black Rooster brewery there because that was the only one that was open. The next day, we went and checked out the museum and stuff. Had a good time. Drove over to White Sands, drove to Tombstone, stayed in Tombstone. Then we went up to Flagstaff, then drove through the crater, hit Winslow, and then came back to Dallas and back home to Little Rock. So, but I like how they have all the little lights set up as little aliens. That was cool. The McDonald's was cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wish more of the town was into it. Like, at the south side of town, like, everyone's into it. You see it everywhere. But if you haven't gone during the festival, I recommend it. It's a good time.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
But I'd have a good time. But I had more fun in Tombstone, though.
Oh, yeah. I've not been to Tombstone, but Sam knows I'm obsessed with that movie. When we go do our historical monument this September, that's why I've grown this out, so I can do Doc Holliday and stuff.
All right. Well, I would tell you, it's during the day is like Disneyland for the movie. Mm-hmm. It really, really is. To where if it got to the point, so we got there late afternoon, checking in the hotel, and then we're like, okay, we're starving, let's go down. So we're like, holy cow, this is it. This is cool. So you're a little overwhelmed at first. So a big fan like you guys, obviously. And so I made the comment, like, man, we need to get something to eat. This guy walks by, goes, you need to come over. I tell him, the name escapes me now. And I was like, oh, yeah? He goes, yeah, come eat over there. That happened to be the owner of the place walking by when I was making the comment, which turned out to be beneficial. So we get in there and Vogelman's. So, and he goes, so you know anything about the history? And he goes, man, yeah, this is where, if you saw the movie Wilder, the kid that talks to him in the beginning and the end, hey, Mr. Earp, you saved my uncle. He talks about with the there you go. Yeah, so that version right there, he talks about my uncle did this and he locked him up at Vogelman's. It was a bowling alley. And so he goes, yeah, this is where he locked him up at, was right here. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So they had the bar like a little bowling lane, which was kind of neat, and we ate tacos and drank beer. Every saloon we went to that night, which is cool, we hit them all, the Oriental, and there's a Doc Holiday, and there's a Big Nose Kate. Big Nose Kate, we saw something move behind the bar. It was just shaking away, and And my buddy like, that's not normal. But everybody that night was super nice. They were like, oh, yeah, this place is haunted. We've had this encounter. We've had that. The saloon girls at the one, I can't remember the name of it now. And they were just chatting us up, telling us everything about it. It was great. We're like, oh, this is really cool. So we got a little hammered and we're on our way back. And it was close to midnight. And we decided we were going to walk the path because they have maps up, shows you where it's at. And, well, let me back up real quick. But when you go at night, though, the owners are there. They'll tell you the real history of the place. It's like the Oriental that we see in the movie. It's been burnt down, rebuilt back up. So when you walk in, that's not where the bar was at. He'll point. The guy was there and goes, "Yeah, we have the bar. The bar was originally over here. This was, So yeah, they play it up for the tourists. That you got to make money. But the Birdcage Theater, that's still there. That's still original, and that's where I got touched.
Oof. And that's a place to get touched, like one of those, like just big. Sam, don't make faces like that. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like
it's funny though. Okay, so the basement of the Birdcage Theater is the museum for the prostitutes, the working girls of Tombstone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, Sam, it all makes sense now. No, but going back to like just the locals, it's really fun when you get to like be friends with them because like we go to Lincoln, New Mexico, where Billy the Kid escaped yearly at this point, and it was like our second or third time there. We were eating at the Bonito Valley Brewery, but he was talking to us, and we were going outside, and he's like, "Oh, you see that? Not real. It's just recreation because every town wanted these ruins in their city." So it's fun, like you get that like behind the scenes history as well. Yeah. No,
yeah, awesome. It was fun. So I mean, Tombstone was a lot of fun. Where we debated on staying another night there and prolonging our trip, but about mid morning because we couldn't go to the Birdcage until the next day, and and you have to pay for it. And so we were waiting to do that. We were going to go down into one of the mines they have right there, the silver mines. I mean, they're right there. They're not like out yonder. I mean, the mines are right there in Tombstone. So we were going to go check out a mine, and there's a lot of rules, and we're like, okay, no, we'll just takes all the fun away from it. You give us rules. So that's when we did the Birdcage, and we looked at each other, and there were so many people, and they were all wearing "I'm your Huckleberry," and "I'm your Huckleberry," and "I'm your Huckleberry," and "I'm your Huckleberry," and I finally said, "Let's just go. Let's go. Let's go Flagstaff." So now we loaded up and took off for Flagstaff. But at night, with the locals, that was the best part.
Mm-hmm.
Great tacos at Vogelman's.
We'll see. Now we gotta go. I love tacos. So, earlier you had promised some stuff on the spider like walk that the Bigfoots do, which is something new for me. Like not like right now, but like back in the day, you saw like the Patty footage where it's like people think she's like an old Bigfoot and like the movement's kind of wonky. But then I remember I heard a podcast where it like dropped down and crawled away like a spider. I was like, that is kind of a creepy like thing to imagine, like a big ape-like thing doing that.
I first heard the spider crawl about 2-3 years ago. And same thing with you. I mean, picturing it, just giant, 7-8 foot, 800-900 pound creature drop down and move like a spider. I would probably need some Depans. I mean, the imagery there is just scary. So you start digging more and more into these encounters and how they'll talk about, some of the people have seen it, how it just comes up or drops down. It's like a natural fluid motion. And I'm wondering now if that's almost not how they normally walk. So if you're spread out on all fours, right, your weight displacement, you know what I mean? So your weight's not all up. When you walk, your weight goes on one foot. Then it goes to the next foot. Then it goes to the next foot. So if you're thinking about if you're doing a spider crawl, they're doing this. So they're dispersing their weight. So that's going to make it harder to get tracks. So when we see the tracks come and all of a sudden the tracks disappear, the potential of them dropping to a spider crawl and move that way. That may be more of a natural. It's a new theory that I've been kicking around for a couple of weeks now, because you'll hear people talking about it, and then of course me watching this damn thing with the eye shines, boom, 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 it was low, and there's nothing with that big of eyes in Arkansas. I mean, nothing. I have a skeleton in my backyard. So before me and my fiance got a house together, I had a house, I had a bar in the backyard, and we're going to rebuild it again. And I had a skeleton bartender named Lloyd from The Shining, all part of the country. And Lloyd's about a 6-foot skeleton, and the eye sockets are about 2 inches. So a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting there, both over my shoulder, and Lloyd was sitting in the chair in the backyard staring at me. It was about 20 feet away, and I went, "Oh God, that's the ice. That was the ice that I saw." So, yeah, but I do think that I got unintended there. Sorry, I do think that they're able to move. I think that's their fluid motion. That's why we don't see them. I really do. I mean, we're looking, from here up, and I think they're here down. Well, we got a picture by accident last year outside of Bald Knob, Arkansas. Chris was out there taking pictures, and he saw some kind of little big trees. And so on his hunting property, and so he's going to take these pictures for me for us to look at. And he took a couple of them, and in the background there's this little blurred brown thing, and I was like, "What? I don't remember there being a blind in that area." And he goes, "I don't remember one either." So I sent it to a buddy of mine. I was like, "Hey, what is this picture?" And he sent back, and it had a dust spot circle. And he goes, "That looks like a hunting blind, but what is this?" And it looks like we got a face in the middle, crouching down at the profile. And in one picture it's there, and the other picture it's not. So I think when they get up and move that way, I think they get up and move almost similar to how a giant ape would.
Well, and weight distribution, I think, is better on 4 than 2. That's why sauropods bigger than theropods, because they could carry the weight more. I just remember the first time I heard it, they were like, "Yeah, it just collapsed." I'm like, that's
well, okay, so think about it. In all the sightings that we have, how long do they see it walking for?
Very short time. I mean, a minute, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and it's gone. Yeah, we saw it walking across the field and was gone. Popped on up to the tree line, they came down. I mean, they're going to get up. They get better, visibility, and they're upright. But I think the spider crawl is more almost a natural, almost a 50-50 thing for them.
Yeah, it could
theory.
Definitely.
It's a theory, though, so I'll probably change my mind on it in 2 weeks, because, I mean, but we're supposed to be open-minded about these things. We're supposed to be able to look at new evidence, new data, you know what I mean, and go, okay, so that takes that theory out the window. Let's focus over here. I've noticed a lot of the researchers out there will get stuck on one thing, and that's what they're going to go with. Like if you'd asked me 4 years ago, I was just Sasquatch was a flesh and blood creature. Now I'm going, well, there's some woo things with it. Okay, but it's still flesh and, and so there's days I'm thinking, okay, interdimensionals, hanging on out with Elvis and the UFO. I mean, then there's days I'm like, no, it's a full-blood flesh and blood creature. But I do think there's some biological traits that they have that we haven't discovered yet. I mean, let's take a look at the platypus, for example. Let's take a look at squids, for example. Let's take a look at chameleons, for example, who have these abilities to camouflage and change. So, I mean, the polar bear has see-through fur. It's not white, it's clear. So why can't a Sasquatch have some of that?
Right. The what's the saying? Reality is stranger than fiction, something like that.
Yeah. My favorite ones, you can't make this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, reality is. I mean, there's the real world is a lot more fascinating that we could probably come up with scientifically. That we have. I mean, like the platypus. Who would have thought of that? I mean, the platypus is almost like the car that you would have drawn as a 3-year-old. You know what I mean? If you think about it, am I wrong? I mean, that's what it is. So, I mean, Disney could not have came up with a better creature. So it just shows you what nature has out there, and they're discovering new species all the time. I got a buddy of mine who's a herpetologist, and just sent him a link about a new species of snake they just got discovered. And he was like, dude, this is cool. I was like, I'm surprised you didn't send it to me,
Right.
So
they're also finding animals that were thought extinct, coming back recently, like the Zanzibar leopard. Sam, how about that?
Oh, the man in the suit.
No, the Zanzibar leopard is not a man in the suit.
I know. It's a running joke, but
I know what the chupacabra is.
The chupacabra that fought.
I can tell you what it is.
You do that, and then I'll pull up the movie reference, and I completely blanked on that. I was.
The chupacabra is the Tasmanian tiger.
I have heard that theory before, where because there was that too that they didn't know what happened after the shipwreck.
That's it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the shipwreck where? Off the coast of.
Was it in the south or was it
Mexico?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I just remember the story where they supposedly had the pair, and then after it wrecked, they found most of the animals except for the thylacines.
Well, the thylacines were gone. There were some other ones that were gone as well. So here's my argument on that one too, though. So you take it. All right. So we had this problem, and it goes back to Europeans. And I'm not trying to trash anybody from history at all, but yeah, remember. So Cambridge, is one of the oldest institutions in the world. So you get these scholars from Cambridge who go down to Africa, for example, and then they go into a tribe, and they go, "There's an alligator." And they go, "Yep, that's an alligator. You guys are smart. Giraffe up. You guys are smart. That's a giraffe. Okay, that's a dinosaur. You guys are inbred and stupid. No, they don't exist." So that's where this misconception comes into place. So, with the Native Americans, even the colonization of the United States, when they were coming west, they're telling them, "Hey, don't go there. We call that Dead Man Mountain for a reason. There's a giant hairy creature over there. Well, look at the totem poles of the Pacific Northwest. Every animal on the totem pole we have scientific evidence of, and then there's Sasquatch. So we have this, our school, we're still being taught these old traditions. When, these smart white guys or the smart guys showed up that went to Cambridge, showed up to the primitive people, these people have been living there for hundreds of years. I think they know what a snake is. They know what water to drink and what not to drink. Like if I go to your house, you know where the creaky boards are at. I don't. But if you tell me, you don't know nothing. You're not a carpenter.
Right.
You see the point I'm trying to make?
Yeah.
So, but we have this. We still have this though. We still have this in our heads though. The primitive people. We use that term all the time, and they weren't. They thrived for hundreds of years in the same area, especially over here. And in our part of the world. These Native Americans, they thrive. So when they say star people, they're not making a reference and cracking a joke. They're really meaning star people.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. They're not trying it. So throughout history is stories of these beings, of the Dogman, of Bigfoot, of star people coming out of the stars. Anastasia's are the star people. There's so much. You got Mountain Verde right there. Gorgeous. Love that place. So Anastasia is another great story how the civilization appears and disappears really quick. Or even Louis L'Amour wrote a novel about it and referenced them as being interdimensional beings. Louis L'Amour.
Right.
I am showing my age. For those of you who don't know who Louis L'Amour is, Louis L'Amour was an infamous Western writer, during, the 20th century. God, I said 20th century. I'm getting old. So,
I have quite a bit of Louis L'Amour books. So.
Yeah. But he does. He wrote a novel about the Anastasia being interdimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's all right there. The problem is, though, is that we think we know more than everybody else does. And we've gotten away from so much of of what's out there. And everybody's like, so why do you think we're seeing so many cryptid sightings now? So because people aren't afraid to report it. But now but history, our history only goes back to 150 years. If you think about it, 3 generations. That's how far back our history goes. Nobody remembers the 4th one. And the 3rd one's fading out. The 2nd one's still there. For you know what I mean? That's how far back our history goes, even with it being written down. Then again, too, though, who decides on what gets written down?
Yeah, it's something we struggle with a lot when doing research is what to believe and not believe. Yeah, no.
I know. Yep.
Yeah, it's a daily struggle anymore. It seems like
So I was really anti-Wendigo. Really, really anti-Wendigo. I really was. I looked at the Wendigo as a warning. Hey, don't, if you become a cannibal, you're going to turn into a Wendigo. This is what's going to happen. And I actually ended up discussing Rod from Rod. If I screw it up, I'm sorry. He's up in North Dakota on the res, and we were having a conversation about it. And I said, yeah, I just have a hard time with the Wendigo. And he goes, no, man, you got it all wrong. You have it all wrong. And he's gulping. And 5 minutes later, I went, okay, I just changed my mind on the Wendigo. It's the spirit, So when you do commit these heinous acts, you open up yourself to the spirit of the Wendigo to come into you. So that's what ties in with the Skinwalker stuff. That's what I'm saying. I just came full circle with that. Sorry.
Hey, it's like poetry. It rhymes. No, it's fascinating to look at everything like that. I found the movie for anyone listening. It was Eric Estrada in Chupacabra versus Alamo. It's terrible, but if you want a fun movie to watch with some friends and have some laughs, there you go.
Hold on, what's it called?
Chupacabra versus the Alamo.
With Eric Estrada?
With Eric Estrada, and it's hilarious. There's one part where he's like riding his motorcycle and he's just going like this. It's so bad, but it's so funny.
I'm gonna have to. I gotta look that one up now.
Yeah, if you ever want wild movie ideas, just let us know because we watch a ton of movies. So at some point we come across some crazy ones. But
oh yeah.
No, thank you for joining, and of course, we'll be on your show here in a minute. But for anyone wondering where they can, follow you more and hear more about your adventures and your podcasts and stuff like that, as well as maybe any conferences or festivals or these big conventions that you might be going to here in the near future, where can they go to find that?
So I do have a website, DrunkenCryptids.com. It's just there to take you to the show. But I'm on all your streaming platforms, Drunken Cryptids, with a space. Facebook, YouTube, obviously, got to have, Spotify, all those things. If you have questions, you can, email me, drunkencryptids@gmail.com. I am going to be speaking at the in Ada, Ohio, at the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree 2 this year, which is, I'm looking forward to that, which will be my with Cryptids of Corn to put that on. September, I'm going to Kansas City. I've been invited to go investigate that Sally House to get my take on that one. I know nothing about it, which is weird because I'm all about haunted stuff. Like Amityville Horror is like one of my favorite all-time haunted. So I'm going to go get a chance to go investigate up there. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And then I have a booth set up at the Arkansas Paranormal Expo in Little Rock at the end of October 26th. I always get that date screwed up. I think 26th. So yeah, but October 4th, I'll be in Ada, Ohio. So at the family tent going, hey.
No, that's awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. This has been fun. And this is kind of what makes social media worth it is I just happened to run across you on one of the cryptid pages. And now I've found your show. We've been able to connect. I mean, this is what makes that aspect of life worth it, I think.
And I agree. I was talking to, I interviewed a guy, and I know you're trying to wrap it up, I apologize. Same thing happens to me.
You're good.
And he met me on TikTok, and he wanted to go, he has some medium stuff he wanted to talk about it. And he goes, I'll be honest with you, I live all the way up in Indiana. I would have never met you or talked to you if I hadn't been for social media and everything. So, it's a good thing in a lot of ways. It can be. I think it's, good and bad. Depends on how you use it, what you use it for. So, but I could go on and on about the internet and I think manifestation of entities anyway. But
It just means we got to do a part 2 at some point.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Say when.
Or,
So.
I mean, say when. Yeah. Little
Say
tombstone there.
when.
But maybe at some point we'll have you back and we can do a deep dive on Chupacabra versus the Alamo together.
Oh, that'd be great.
So once again, Sam and I want to say thank you to Matthew for joining us on this awesome episode of Culz Interviews. We both had a really fun time, and we hope Matt did as well. And make sure to go down in the description below or click the link that will appear on the bottom right to go check out his show, Drunken Cryptids. I think you guys will enjoy it. I know I sure did. But until next time, guys, for more Culz Interviews, click that link to your left. I believe the last one was Brian Bowden. So more cryptid stuff over there. For more from us here at Culz Paranormal, click the link to your right. Believe it's Lost World. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know. Did you have a cryptid experience before? Tell us in the comments below.